thank you for participating in this webinar and in this session. So I'd like to talk about the hidden process improvement opportunities in your finance department. When we're trying to improve a process, it's very important to properly choose the areas we want to improve and make sure that we're not improving problems or creating problems elsewhere in our flow because we're improving or automating a piece of it. So if we're implementing a solution, we're looking at automation as a solution to a problem, it may not be the best solution and may not be the best path to be fully automated when we're looking at the entire process. A lot of times, if we're saving a lot of entries or a lot of we're saving a step into one area, but we're creating more steps later on in the process, and we're looking at the full efficiency, we could actually be slowing down and creating some problems by trying to automate. And there's a few cases where I've been involved into those things, and one of them that I think was is kind of probably that can resonate to a lot of you guys is a company that was receiving invoices that had more quantity or more material in them than what they had ordered from the vendor. And that's a typical thing we can see. The vendor says, well, this comes from, this comes in a box of 12, and this customer is asking for 11. I'll just ship the box of 12. What we tend to do is we can put trust or we can put things like that, but we're creating an area as small as it can be. We're creating an area where we can hide a defect. And then when we're trying to solve those things, either by implementing a new solution or doing something manually, we create a transition. And when we're creating a transition, it creates stress for people. I remember a transition where we had a customer where we moved their entire payment approval process from the PO all the way, invoices, employees, their entire AP was all going through a new payment process. And they were really used to pay by check. They'd actually look at the invoice individually underneath the payment and sign the check as an approval process. That was their last approval of payment. There was no chance to act on it because the goods were consumed or the service were rendered. There's nothing they could do if they found a defect, but they'd still go through them and sign a document at the end. And one of the things we had done is we had put a little check in a glass box and said, in case of emergency, just break the glass so that they could go back to their previous process. There's certain situations like this where transitions become a problem. So if we're automating a part of a flow, so we're doing AP automation, or that's very popular, or we're doing something around payments and we're doing something around procurement, we need to make sure that whatever is the automation we're doing is not going to impact the next piece. For example, if we're automating wrong data at the procurement level, it's going to create a lot of problems around AP. Same thing if we're automating AP and we're automating some problems or capturing some defects and not reconciling properly, then we create a lot of problems for the finance side, and that results in payment. As we're going down this flow of procurement and then invoicing and finance and payment, every time we step away from the initial step, if you will, or the originator, every time we step away from the originating step, we create more waste and more efforts to solve a problem. So if we find a problem around payment where we're signing a check or we're reviewing a payment approval and we find a problem there, it costs a lot more to fix than if we find the problem when we're approving an invoice, or even more efficiently if we find a problem when we're trying to issue the PO. A lot of companies today are not issuing POs. They may issue a PO when they receive an invoice, and that's just because of the way that we're trying to be efficient is by introducing speed to places where it's not as critical. And then the other pitfall I would say that I see a lot in companies that are trying to automate is they're trying to put non-technical solutions or Frankenstein pieces of solutions into a process and end up having large pieces of software and use 5% of each of them. And that just creates a lot of complexity and a lot of stuff to maintain. And it becomes a burden more than anything else. So how do we identify inefficiencies in what we're doing today, and how do we address those efficiencies? A lot of times when the suppliers are not involved in procurement or in AP, we're just reacting to the data that they think is correct. And there's a problem with that when the data they think is correct is not correct. And so now we're coming into a situation where we need to try to organize our supplier base. And we do that either through procurement or through different strategies around AP. But the people that get called when things go bad is AP usually. AP is going to get a call from the vendor saying, you know, we're putting you, we're going to send you a statement, or we're putting your account on hold. And now, where's the problem? And we have to react to that new constraint that's within our flow. A lot of times, procurement will be rushed to buy stuff. When a new transaction comes in, we just got a new expense, or we have a new order from a new customer. Procurement may need to buy some supply, and when they're doing that, they may not go through the full procurement process in order to try to speed it up. And then AP receives some invoices that don't match the PO, or that has no PO that should be on a PO, or the price has changed, and now the supplier's accounts receivable is calling in and wants to know what's going on because they're trying to manage their cash flow. So the supplier sends a statement, like I said before, and then how do we get out of this circle? A lot of times what's going to happen is accounts payable is going to contact their IT department asking for help. And most IT departments are going to start looking at how can we get this solved. A lot of times they're going to search on Google or try to find another way through their ERP. Most of the time we go through BAASS, and that's where we're at today, I guess. Most of what we see in the flow like that, there's becomes some blockers around it, and becomes a problem to growth if we're going through a reaction process. It's much better to proactively contact somebody like BAASS or like SnapAP and see, how can I know this is going to happen. This has happened in the past. It's a vicious cycle I seem to be stuck in. How do I get out of this? What are the strategies I can do? What is the best toolkit that I can be equipped with to not have those process issues? So I'd like to spend a few minutes to talk about SnapAP, what SnapAP can do and what SnapAP is doing for solutions, and what are the practices that we do within SnapAP to fix a lot of the issues that are found in the procure-to-pay flow. So SnapAP is not an AP automation tool. It's more a procure-to-pay complete solution. So it's got the footprint from procurement and the procurement best practices, which flows into AP, which then flows into finance and flows into the actual payments. So if we're starting, let's start from the end there and map the process. SnapAP can approve payments, whether they are from a SnapAP entry or they've been entered by another third party or maybe directly into your ERP, but the invoice can be approved and SnapAP can interject and send the payments information to the bank automatically to your bank, and the bank does the payment. SnapAP will send the remittance advice directly to your vendors. The vendors can log into the free accounts receivable tool within SnapAP manage their account receivable there. There's no more supplier statements because of that, and the supplier can self-serve the flow of information that comes out of your company. The step before the payments is the AP automation and the finance. So SnapAP will send every transaction back and forth to Sage. If you have invoices that are coming in, like I said, from another system, SnapAP can also grab those and reconcile within Sage. If you have multiple ERPs or multiple databases of Sage, SnapAP can keep those in sync as well, automatically on the accounts payable side. One thing SnapAP does is it connects the vendors in the accounts payable as well. So the vendors can submit their invoices directly through our platform, through their AR tool, or they can send their invoice to you through other means, and then you can OCR, just like you've seen others do today, and put it in SnapAP that way. When we're looking at the OCR process, a lot of times the scanning will introduce some defect. Either it's because the invoice doesn't match our PO or our agreement, or the data on the invoice itself is wrong. When the data on the invoice is wrong, it's a lot harder to fix because even if we successfully scan the wrong data, we have no way to know, we have no way to reconcile that. So that's why SnapAP also have the procurement aspect of it. We give the best practice at the earliest piece of information available, which is the requisitioner. So when somebody in a company has the idea to buy something or wants to purchase something, we know that that purchase is going to result in an invoice. The best place to fix defects, the opportunity in AP, is actually in procurement. That's where we can fix the problems before they occur, by giving the best opportunity to the buyers or to the people that are issuing POs or sending out orders to vendors to be the most accurate possible. And then there's the flexibility around SnapAP. So if you're looking at the full end-to-end solution from scratch with just SnapAP and your ERP, it's something we can definitely do. But you may have already invested in some tools. Maybe you already have a document management or an expense report management, where you already have a payment process, and you're just looking for procurement and AP or anything like that. We fill the gaps. So we sit where there's nobody else, or where there's a hole in your organization, where you need to have some level of automation into that place as well. If you decide to grow and you decide to open a module, or now you want a buyer in your organization, for example, where previously maybe the buying was done by the originator of the requisition, and now you're grown to a place where you need a buyer. Well, we don't need to reinstall anything. We don't even need to be called. You can just turn a switch into SnapAP. They'll create the buyer role, and we'll change the workflow so that when you're sending the requisition after the requisitioner, it would go to a buyer. If you're doing it with a strategic sourcing firm, it'd be the same. We can onboard the strategic sourcing firm automatically. They would receive your orders, do the strategic sourcing for you, and then send you the PO for approval. If you're looking at just the PO approval, same thing. It can be just a switch or just the invoice onwards. Basically, what I'm trying to say is it's extremely flexible. So you can even skin it and change the look and feel to fit what's best, the reality of your workflow. So you can make it look exactly like Sage, or look in between two of those systems. SnapAP in its structure is not only modular, but it's a system that calculates its cost based on your savings. As much as you're using SnapAP, as much you're saving, the more you're using it, the more you're saving, and so the system drives its cost per usage. And we think actually that's a very attractive thing. It's a plus when we can bill per unit, because as you can calculate the ROI per unit a lot more than you can calculate it as a lump sum, and then risk not achieving the threshold to start gaining ROI. SnapAP is all about defect reduction. So what we're trying to do is, yes, we're trying to automate. Everybody's trying to automate. Everybody has a solution to automate. But can we remove problems through automation? So SnapAP is not trying to automate where we're basically putting everything in blindly. We're trying to automate by reducing defects on the way of automation. Because we think that the only way to properly automate a process is not by making it more complex or adding steps to it. It's by removing options and making it flow properly. And that's it. I'd really like, if you have any questions, again, please go ahead. But if somebody wants to see SnapAP, see the tool, see what it looks like, the apps or the flows that I just explained, don't hesitate to reach out. We have a lot of materials we can give to your BAASS representative as well. If you're going through your BAASS representative or me directly, we'll keep all the information in sync. We can send you some videos, some things like that. When we're demoing SnapAP, it's important to know what are the areas you're trying to solve. If you want to see the full spectrum of solutions we have, the SnapAP cash management, SnapAP procurement, SnapAP accounts payable, SnapAP expense report, or if you just want to see one of those modules or part of one of those modules. And so when we're doing a demo of SnapAP, it's important to understand what you're looking for, but also where you're trying to go with our technology so that we can best structure our flow to meet your needs.
Thank you so much for that, JD. We have had a few questions come in. So I will kick us off with the first one. Yep. What do you consider as complex finance ops? Wondering what size organization your system is best suited for. So I guess that's a two-part question.
Yeah. So I would say this. When we started SnapAP, the earlier versions of SnapAP, that was built for a Fortune 5000 customer. So it was built for very large organizations. We have implemented SnapAP to companies in Canada, the US, and Australia, as well as Europe now. Companies that are spanning through multiple jurisdictions with currency difference and exchange rates and different chart of accounts, often different ERPs. So that's what I would say. It's the most complex scenarios we've been dealing with. But we also recently had a customer that's a government firm local to South New Brunswick that's not as complex and not as big. I shouldn't say not as complex, just not as big. There's a lot of times smaller companies are trying to, so I'll give you a longer explanation. I'm trying to save time, but I guess I don't need to. A lot of tools that are coming in will ask a company to change their process to fit whatever they have within the reality of their software. And a smaller company will expect the software to adjust more to the process they're going through. So when we're looking at SnapAP and we're looking at the market segment that it can address to, it's a very large corporation, but it's flexible enough to change itself, change its behavior to fit the realities of a smaller company. So I hope that answers your question.
Another question we have is, could you help with processing employee expenses?
Yes, so SnapAP supports employee expense as well as employee advance or an expense advance. We do that multiple ways. So SnapAP has an app that's available on Android and Apple, and it's all mobile platform, where an employee that would go to through a travel arrangement can take pictures of their receipts. We extract the information automatically from those receipts, attach the receipt to the expense, go through approval, and then pay that employee through cash management solution. But we also have a direct integration with American Express Travel. When a company wants to maybe charter a flight or have a budget for travel predetermined, we can do that as well. American Express, if they're booking a travel, it will show up as a travel type PO within SnapAP, and then we can flow that travel type PO through the procurement stage and then accounts payable and payment again. So there's smaller volume expense report, if you will, or individual employee expense. And then there's the management of higher volume expense based on contracts with travel agencies.
Awesome. Another question we have is, how have vendors responded to using SnapAP?
Very well. In Canada, the approval rate is very high. The vendor adoptions is it's great for them because it gives them a lot of visibility and it's free. So if you reverse a situation and let's say that you consider yourself as a vendor of somebody who's got SnapAP, you don't need to call their AP department at all anymore. You can self-serve, you can look where your invoice is, you can see that it's awaiting approval or awaiting shipment. And you can even control your own expediting because you have enough visibility to do that. Now, SnapAP will enable an AP person to communicate, or a buyer to communicate with a vendor through an automatic chat because the vendor are embedded within the platform and solve problems right within the tool should there be one. But the vendor is always tendered to and is able to proactively manage their situation within SnapAP.
So that is all the questions that I've had come in. I will remind the audience that if at any time you have questions or you think of something afterwards, there will be a survey that is sent out at the end of the day where you can request additional information. I want to say thank you very much to JD for another amazing presentation.
Thank you.